Hi and welcome back to our studio. Well, a couple of nights ago I filmed this, and it's a live stream of a not quite versus just right seascape. Now this is just my experience of painting seascapes over the last 20 plus years, maybe how I used to paint and how I think I've improved a bit now. So sit back and enjoy. Afraid it was all done on a webcam, so the film quality isn't brilliant, but I think you get the idea. It's just a bit of fun, and if you can learn some things through it, then that's great. Watch it to the end. There's lots of little tips and tricks at the very end of it, and if you like it enough, you consider subscribing to the channel, give it a like and a little thumbs up. It really helps to promote the channel, and we'll see you on the next video. Enjoy. Bye. Escapes, these fellas that cause all a number of problems for people. This is one I did on a live stream. Try and get the reflection. This one I did on a live stream about 3-4 weeks ago, maybe a bit before Christmas, and it seemed to catch people's imaginations. People seem to like this, so I thought, well, let's have a go at painting a seascape and having some fun with it. And I'm going to do two. I'm going to do a side by side. I did my last live stream was liquid white, too much versus just right, and I thought let's do a versus. Let's do a seascape, not quite versus just right. And I have to say right off the bat that these things I'm going to paint are based upon my experience of getting it wrong. I'm not looking at anybody else's paintings when I'm doing this. I'm just casting my mind back many decades ago when I used to paint seascapes, and I think I look back at them now and think, so what was I thinking? So that's the plan for tonight, is that I'm going to paint and I'm going to make a bit of a mess of one, and I'm going to hopefully do a better job on the other. So I'm going to spin the camera around and get back on my canvas. Tonight, I have just again a limited palette. So I like painting limited palettes because it means I can keep track of what I'm doing here. But I have just titanium white at the end. I have a little bit of mountain mix, but it could be just Prussian blue. Anything you like would have done. A little bit of phthalo green and a little bit of cad yellow there. So just 4 little colours, and let's see what I can produce with this. My sky might be a bit on the dark side, but that's okay. We're just going to have some fun with it. So right, I'm going to spin the camera back round, get it pointing at the canvas, and let's see what sort of a mess I can get myself into here. So sit tight. You're going on a ride again. Here we go. Okay. Get you nice and high. Seascapes, not quite just right. Get the camera nice and high. There we go. I think that's just about right there. As long as you can see the left side and the right side. Okay, I think that's about as good as I'm going to get tonight. Okay, so my prep for this painting was, as always, I've got some liquid whites on the canvas. Let me get this a little bit better. That's lined up a bit better. I'm doing this all kind of by back to front here. So I got it kind of set out with liquid white on 2 panels. I put a little bit of tape down the center. Not quite just right, okay. First things first, gosh, I'm so well prepared tonight. I even did a list of things. That's my extensive notes written on the back of an envelope, so you can see I'm really well prepped for our fun tonight. But first things first, before you even start painting, put your liquid white on and then test it. That should be kind of ingrained in your brains when you paint. It's as soon as you start painting, test it. So take your hands and just touch the canvas, and I'm going to use a different finger in a different part of my painting. So I've got, that's my fingertips, and you can see that I can just about see my fingerprints through that, which means that that's about right. If you see no fingerprints through it. If you don't see any kind of fingerprints at all, it means you're just a little on the wet side. And I'm going to test both panels. So I just dried my hand on a baby wipe, dry my fingers, and just do the other side. Because I guarantee you that's pretty good as well. They got quite nice coverage there. I guarantee you the day you start doing that painting and it turns into one of those absolute winners, the best painting that you've ever done will be on a canvas that starts to dry out halfway through, and you'll be sitting there kicking yourself thinking, why didn't I just test my canvas? And you'll be heartbroken. So always test your canvas. I'm just going to wipe out. Okay, so there's my canvases are tested. Now, next thing I want to talk about is position and layouts of things like horizons. I'll bring that other painting back over because this one really is a bit of a classical. It's a bit of a classic layout for a painting here. I divided my canvas about 1/3 sea to about 2/3 sky, and that sort of a division, thirds, is really a classic. So 1/3 and 2/3, or you can have 2/3 sea, 1/3 sky. Be careful when you're doing things like Seascapes where you split your canvas 50-50. Okay, when it really is right through the center, it produces kind of an odd effect when you look at your painting. You don't know whether you're supposed to look at the sky or the sea. There's no winner because they're both the same. So the first thing I'm going to do on my canvas is I'm going to split my canvas up. I'm going to split it up twice, and I'm going to split one in half, and then I'm going to split one 2/3, 1/3. So I'm going to take my little fan brush here, little number three fan, a little bit of a little bit of mountain mix, just a smidge. I might put out some Prussian blue. That looks a little on the dark side. So on my left-hand panel, I'm going to try and split this about 50-50, which is going to be somewhere about there. And on the right-hand panel, I'm probably going to go a little higher. So I've got less sky and more sea on the right, and about even Stevens on the left-hand side. And we'll see how the paintings work out. I will put out some Prussian blue because I think that mountain mix is going to make a bit of a piece here of my painting otherwise. Oops, I'm just looking for some Prussian blue. I have a giant cupboard full of paints. That is my giant art cupboard, and I can fall into. I'm just going to put out a little bit of Prussian blue. Okay, there we go. Prussian blue. Drop that down there. Okay, and I'm going to carry on using the brush I put the liquid white on with. I need to give it a bit of a dry clean first. Let me give that a quick wipe. Chaos. So let me give that a quick dry clean. I might have mentioned previously on live demos that I rarely wash my brush unless I really want to change colour completely. If I want to go from blue to yellow, I'll give my brush a wash, but more often than not I find as soon as I get thinners in the brush, that's really done for quite some time, so you need to go away and sort of get two brushes. But I'm going to go just a little hair, a little Prussian blue, and I'm not overloading it. So I've only got two little panels to work on here, 10 by 20, so I'm not going to go too crazy with this colour. Just rub it through the brush and give it a good tap. And I'm on my hard palette today, which makes a change. I'm usually fighting with some floppy plastic one. And as always, I'm going to hit my corners first. In both panels, I have to do the other panel at the same time. And the idea is you want to get a nice fade. By the time you get to your horizon line, you want your colours to be kind of dropping out and fading out. Is my voice okay, Sasha? Can you hear all right? I'm just using my regular cam mic. I haven't got a lavalier mic set up. It's just my regular webcam mic. and give me a yay or a nay. And what I want to do here is I want to try and get a little bit of a fade going down to this horizon line. And this is just what I call a quick and easy sky. Nothing, no great special treatment on this. So I've only got a little bit of sky there to worry about. And a little more on the other side. Just load my brush up a little bit more. Keep hitting my wires. And I just reloaded my brush. And always remember, if you're going to reload your brush, always start back up at those tops again. Don't start in the middle. You end up putting a big... Oh, great. That's great. Thank you, Sean. Hi there. How are you? Yeah, if you're going to reload your brush, always start back up at the top again, and just in case you've got a big blob of blue on your brush by mistake, what you don't want to do is put a great big blue nugget right in the middle of your sky. So as I said, I've split my canvas up, not quite, and this side's my just right side. This side I split my canvas 50-50, so I really half the sky and half the sea, and the one on the right is about 1/3 sky. This is a classical side, and this is the side I would probably not choose to paint. Okay, so there's our first differences. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. I want to concentrate on my sea. Shall I throw in a cloud, guys? What do you think? Yay? Nay? I'm going to do a real quick cloud. And I'll throw up some fast little clouds. Quick, fast moving little clouds. Just ones that kind of turn up in a fleet of a second and they blow away again. So I'm going to go into my titanium white with my fan brush. So just dry clean that. And I'm going to load a lot of paint. A lot of paint. I think more clouds die through lack of paint, like oxygen. You need plenty. Always clouds, always clouds. Okay, clouds. Remember, clouds like to have flat bottoms and bubbly tops. They have good personalities and flat bums. And with brushes are like people. Just think, if someone stands behind you and pushes you, it's kind of, you want to resist them. Whereas if someone walks up and takes you by the hand and leads you, you tend to follow. So I'm going to paint a little cloud here with a bubbly top and a flat bottom, and I'm just going to put one in here, and I'm going to use little letter C's, and I'm going to just lead my brush left to right. I'm just putting little curls. And don't overwork. You see, you can get some real nice effects with this. If you just leave some of that heavy paint alone, a little more paint. And here we go, a little squeeze, a little more paint. Boy, we've got a big rain cloud going over, and it's just dropped a big ton of rain on us. You might even be able to hear it. So I'm just looking for a nice fluffy top. And if you don't want fluffy tops, you can do what I call fast clouds, little spinners, and you just literally scrub the canvas with your brush. And just see, I'm just twisting my brush. Let me take my hand out of the way. I'm kind of looking at this through the screen as well as painting. So I'm kind of looking in one direction. I'm trying to do something else. And kind of just have fun. Just let the brush kind of run and jump and spin and do all kind of crazy things. And sometimes these are going to be the most fun clouds you'll paint. The ones you sit and labour over, the ones that always kind of go wrong. And back to my brush and give it a quick dry clean. Okay, and I'm going to blend my clouds. And the piece of the brush I'm going to be using here, I'm going to be using just these few hairs. Just a little bit off the corner there. You really don't want to be going in with the whole brush and really working at it. And here's the other tip when you're painting. If you're going to use the corner of the brush, don't use the brush like on the bottom corner like that, because one, you can't see what you're doing because the brush is in your way. Like you can't see where the brush is hitting. So if I say tip my brush up like so, and then bring the top corner in, you can see where I'm working. So this is important when you're blending little clouds, that you kind of don't go in like that. You'll just bury yourself. I'm just going to go in with the top of my brush, try and get my hand out of the way, and I'm just going to tickle. And I'm doing like a little figure of 8, up and then down, up and then down. Pat the little bottom. So we've got a nice fluffy little top. And then dry clean my brush again. And then with the weight of the brush, you literally don't have to press on this. You're literally looking for just a few hairs. I'm going to just stroke my cloud. And the idea here is you just want to lay the paint nice and flat on the painting. You don't want to hit it too hard. So you get a nice fluffy little cloud. And the same again on the other side. Get the corner of the brush here. I picked up a really scratchy old brush tonight. I actually picked up a nice new one. Again, I'm just going up and down. I'm painting on a new paper today. As I discussed in previous ones, I actually painted on paper. So it's like a practice canvas. So I'm not using a. I'm actually on a canvas. So this is actually taped onto a canvas. So I have the bounce that I want, but this is just paper that I'm painting on. So I'm not using a valuable or expensive canvas here. I'm just using a canvas like a trampoline. And that's kind of important because you actually want a surface which can actually move. So I'm just testing out a new sort of paper here. I usually just paint on lining paper, and what I do is I use a couple of coats of white acrylic, just soft white acrylic, just plain white acrylic paint. Doesn't have to be expensive. And I give it a couple of coats of that. I tape it onto canvas and give it 2 coats of white acrylic just to kind of waterproof it. And that gives you a surface which is great for painting and just for practice. And this particular piece of wallpaper I ordered, it's kind of like a Hessian. It kind of looks like a woven pattern. It's like embossed. And I'm just road testing it to see how good it works with oil paint. And so far so good. It sounds kind of nice and scratchy, so it feels and looks just like a piece of canvas. Okay, so let me scoot that out the way. And scoot that out the way. So, first things first. First thing on my exhaustive list of hi Chantel, hi. First thing on my exhaustive list of things which I wrote for myself is quick and easy sky, question mark, horizon lines. So as you can see, I got a low horizon line of 50-50 and I got a 1/3, 2/3, and we'll see how well the paintings look. The other thing I find that sometimes when painting seascapes is that if you don't get a little colour on the horizon line, when you start trying to put a wave at the top of there, kind of like the wave and the sky ended up kind of mixing into each other, and the wave just becomes kind of lost. So I'm going to leave this one alone, and I'm going to put some colour on this one. And as I mentioned, I got Prussian blue, white, mountain mix, a little phthalo green, just a little bit of the phthalo green for my painting here. So I'm going to just take just a little bit of the mountain mix, a little bit of the Prussian blue colour here, and I'm going to literally just paint on a seascape here. I may throw out a little bit of phthalo green just for fun. Just drop that in. I haven't quite finished playing with my sky yet. I'm just literally looking for some colour. And when I'm painting my seascapes, Even at this stage, even though I'm just kind of throwing colour on, it may look kind of random, but I'm starting to think about the shape of the sea, the position of everything, and I kind of liken painting to being like a game of chess. Sometimes you've got to be thinking a couple of moves ahead, folks, because if not, you end up kind of painting it and then really wishing that you kind of made a better decision sooner in the picture. So in here, I can already kind of picture my seascape. I can already, in my head, I can already see, if I just shape this for you, if I did that as a wave shape. Okay, so even at this stage, I can start to see a crashing wave in my painting. So you want to figure on painting your seascape almost as you go. Don't leave it too much to chance. The more I play with this, the more you see a wave, right? And then I say hi. I have Alexander and Amor. Hi you guys, how are you? Hope you're having a good evening. So there you go. Even at this stage, you can see my wave starts to appear. And seascapes are like that. Maybe that will be a big background wave. Maybe I'll be throwing on an even bigger wave in the foreground. Maybe I'll just drop in another wave. This is just phthalo green, a little mountain mix, a little Prussian green. It's just kind of what was kind of laying around. I literally picked up some tubes of paint and thought they will make good colours for waves. So you can see I kind of designing my waves, and if I don't like a wave, if it's in the wrong position, I can always blast away and I can knock it out and I can move it, and I can turn this into like the daddy wave. So don't be afraid to play with your waves. So there's my foreground wave, and I might put on a little bit of a beach at the front here. So that's kind of the this is kind of okay. And now let's kind of concentrate on the other painting here. This is the one which is more like a 50-50, and whoops, I'm getting a little bit of glare there from the camera. Okay, try and get that to stop glaring. This side, I'm going to make a bit of a classic. I think a little mistake that I used to make is that almost afraid to put any colour on there just in case it went wrong. So I would start off by sneaking up on my horizon line with a very pale looking, let me get that a little higher. So yeah, my painting would be almost so pale that I couldn't see anything. I couldn't see a painting there no matter how hard I tried. Okay, so this would be my problem. I would have a painting that was 50-50, one that had kind of lots of impact, and this one here, well, it kind of could be almost anything, couldn't it? So when you're painting seascapes, don't be afraid to get a little bold with your colour, okay? Unless you're painting something which is particularly pastel. I mean really, and I've painted pastel seascapes in the past, but you've got to get some colour in there, folks. If you don't hit it with some colour, you'll see what happens on this side, because it will turn into something not terribly interesting, and it might just look a bit bland and a bit kind of featureless. So hit it with some colour. That's the first tip. So you can see my not quite and my just right paintings. Okay, let's look at those horizon lines here, because I'm not going to do anything with this horizon line. I'm going to leave this dead flat and a little uninteresting. And on this side, I am going to add some little clouds, and they don't have to be anything special. That pure white area across there is a little bit of a killer, for the first couple of waves because they're not going to show up against that sky. So I think all I really want to do here is just to throw on a little bit of a cloud in the background, and I'm going to use a very ancient paintbrush here. I'm going to just use my fingers, and these are some of the best paintbrushes you'll ever have, because you can make some great little smudgy clouds on the horizon line. Put a little tiny bit of blue into it. Oh, just a little hint of blue. I just want these little soft clouds way back. A little bit of a blue-grey colour. So it may help to define the sky from the sea a little bit more. Now, as I say, I'm just going to stress this a few more times when I'm painting. I'm just painting what I call a generic seascape. In other words, one I'm just thinking up as I go along. This isn't based on anybody else's painting. This is not me having fun at anyone else's expense other than my own, because the paintings you're seeing here are based upon my goofs, my mistakes, things that I do wrong, did wrong, still will do wrong, but hopefully through a few years of getting it wrong, I kind of spot some clues as to what's going on with my paintings. So that's all I'm going to say on that subject. I've looked at my paintings, I look at the photographs, and I think, what were you thinking? You know, you didn't get a good job done there. So I'm really not having fun, not making fun at anyone else's expenses other than my own. If you see a likeness to anything I'm doing, it's just coincidental, folks. I know there's a saying, don't shoot the messenger. I'm just having fun here trying to paint something for you. So here we go. There's my painting on the right, just right. And the one on the left is not quite. So that one's a bit bland. This one's got a bit more going for it. So let's have a go at putting in some waves. Let's put in a little distant wave back in here and see how that one goes. And I'm going to use a palette knife. You go find a palette knife. That one will do. Okay, so I've got the classic Bob Ross palette knife, and I am going to simply drop in some simple waves in the background. So it's time. It's that time. It's tea time. Okay. So here I'm going to just load my palette. So I'm going to load my knife with some white, and I'm going to keep this very simple tonight, folks. You could get more complex, but I'm literally going to just tap my palette knife into some of that nice heavy titanium white paint. I want to get a little line of paint on them, not a huge amount, just a little line of paint. And I'm just thinking about just tapping in some of the seascape here. I'm not sure how straight this looks on camera, but I can assure you it's straight as I'm looking at it. So, and you can see that stands out a little bit. The camera's doing a good job of making it show up more than it really is. But I can assure you, in real life, as I'm sitting here, that doesn't look very interesting. But I'm going to add in some more. So I'm just doing bands of paint here. Let's put another little wave in there. So I'm just going to... There's another little wave. And I'm going to put in another little wave. Now remember, this side of my painting, this side of the canvas, this is my not quite side. So I want you to give me marks out of 10 for this painting, because this is my blooper side. This is where I'm getting this kind of a little wrong. So there's my next wave. And these are little background waves, okay, coming down my canvas. And let's put in one more. Forgot what I was doing then. And these are setting in, folks. By the way, apologies for yesterday. If anybody tuned in and found me not here, apologies for that. I was a bit crook yesterday. I wasn't feeling too good. I don't have the virus. It's I'm still trying to get over an operation I had. I was very lucky. I managed to get had a shoulder operation between the lockdowns. Literally, the consultant had a space in her schedule, and she rang me and she said, "How soon can you get to the hospital?" I said, "When do you want me?" She said, "As soon as you can drive here, because I'm going to cut your shoulder out and put you a new one in, and we don't have long to do it because the shutdown's coming again." And literally within 24 hours I was on the block, and that was just before Christmas, so it's still kind of raw. It hasn't quite healed properly yet. Okay, so there we go. There's my not quite. There's all my junk over there. Not quite versus just right. So there you can see this is my kind of not quite painting. The cloud's okay. My sea's a bit pastel, and my gaps between my waves. What do you reckon? Marks out of 10? Okay, I can hear you. So let's go over to this is a much nicer looking kind of seascape on this side with more colour, more atmosphere. I've got all my paint and junk up the top there. So on this side now I've got a little bit of a cloud up here. So let's put a little wave up here and see how that one looks. Again, exactly the same technique. I'm going to go in and I'm going to load a little bit of paint on the edge of my knife. I'm going to go right up under my clouds. I'm going to just touch in. I'm going to be no more careful with this side. I'm not paying any more attention to this side. I'm just paying exactly the same. But this time I'm going to be paying more attention to the gaps I leave, because further back, that perspective, further back on the horizon line, everything is crushed up, so the gaps are much smaller. The one on the left here, I gapped it really kind of wrong, and I kind of put them all the same distance apart. So these ones back in here, these little waves, you can't really see one from another too much. They're kind of jumbled up, almost on each other's shoulders. So this the painting's got a lot more going for it. My little clouds on the horizon there, they really help my first little waves really pop. I just touched them there. I got a little contrast back there, so those waves really stand out versus the ones on the left here, which are kind of lost. And as we come forward with our painting, so your gaps open up. So if this is like 1 centimetre, the next one will be 1.5, and the next one will be 2 or 2.5 centimetres. So always think about your gaps. You're trying to make the perspective work for you. And as they come forward, so they become more defined. These ones on the left here, they didn't become more defined, they just stayed white lines. These ones will become more wave-like. My gap, I've got a little bit of colour on there, so I'm going to drop in another little wave, and maybe I'm going to give that one a little bit more of a chance. Got a little bit more of a hump and a bump into it. And this one here, even more of a hump and a bump. Yeah, see, I got kind of a little bit more of a shape going for that one. This one in the foreground, I'll do this one. I won't use a palette knife for that one, but you can see this painting here has definitely got a bit more going for it already. So, not quite, a little bit bland, a little better. Okay, so let's work on this one again. Swing that kind of this way. Oopsie. I've got a camera on an arm and it kind of wants to go and do its own thing a little bit. I'll wait for it to kind of settle down a little bit. It thinks it's blazing hot in this room. Turn off my big overheads. Okay, that looks a little nicer, doesn't it? I think my big overhead lights are a bit too strong for this little camera. They're the ones I use for my videos. Okay, so we're going back to this camera again here. So we can get it into the colours. That's the colours are going to settle down in a second. So let's think about putting the wave in this picture, and let's think about positions. Quite often, when I was painting, sometimes I wouldn't really be thinking too much about where the wave would sit in the painting. I wouldn't think far enough ahead, like I didn't think far enough ahead with these positions here. And what would happen is my wave would end up being crushed into one side of my picture. So I'm going to paint a really bad wave over this side, and I'm going to paint it into literally one edge of my painting, because that's how I used to do it. And I'm going to go back into a little bit of the Prussian blue colour here. That's Prussian blue, that's Mountain Mix. And I'm going to pick up a little bit of colour here, and I'm going to sketch a wave shape, which I think everyone should try and avoid. In fact, let's just scoop that off there. I got carried away with that one. I nearly didn't put it in. So the wave shape I'm going to put in here is, this is the wave shape I'm going to put in. Okay, that's the wave shape I'm going to put in, and that's the wave shape coming down. So that's the shape of my wave, and the first thing that, as I pointed out, is it's so far, if this was the whole painting, my wave is trying to crawl off the edge of my canvas, and all of my layout lines are coming down to the base of my wave, which was in here. So my wave is, firstly, it's too high on the left, so it's looking like it's climbing out of the painting rather than building. So that's too high, it's too straight, it curls back on itself, and waves don't often go like that. They could do if there was a really strong wind blowing the base of the wave, but usually what happens is it flattens the top of the waves off. It doesn't push the bottom of the wave under. So it makes it look like the wave is curling round on itself. This line and this line don't correspond either. So it looks like my wave is crashing on the beach here, and yet my wave crash is actually lower than the beach. So in other words, this looks like it's in the background and this looks like it's in the foreground. The two things are in the wrong position. They should be leveled. Okay, so kind of this design is really where we can get a little bit kind of wrong. So, but this is a mistake I used to make, and I used to look at my waves and think, boy, why don't they seem to work? And this was my problem, is that I had, this shape was all wrong. So let's get over to the just right side. Okay, so this is my better side. And I said, on here I've already got kind of some nice layouts, and instantly you can see that I have got that shape. Okay, that shape versus that shape. You can see the big difference now. That looks more like a wave. That looks more like, I don't know what that looks like. That looks more wave-like. I have the wave rising. I have a nice drop. I can curl the paint round, and I can drop my foam just in here. This will be the base of my wave. This will be where the foam is, and all the water from my wave will be coming up there, climbing and getting steeper. So eventually you end up with this nice egg shape in the center here. So this is where the wave's crashing. So this is the shape of an egg. This is the shape of disaster. It's round, it has no noticeable climb, and the water going up into the wave is higher than where the wave is crashing. So you see the two side by side, you see that looks like it's got half a chance, that looks like it's got no chance. So you can see instantly that this shape is a very nice shape, and I've mirrored it with the one behind. Try when you're doing this, and it's not easy on a little piece of canvas, but if you have a nice big canvas to work on, try not to stack these up in a row, okay? Push one over to one side, push the other one back over, or move them at an angle. I'm only on 10, I got a little piece of canvas here, about 10 inches wide, so kind of everything's a little too stacked up. Okay, so I wouldn't have it like this normally. Let's scoot that one out the way. Rub that out, okay, and let's put it back in. And let's kind of have it over there a little more. Okay, so I made a little adjustment on my picture there. I kind of moved that wave over just a hair, just got him a little bit further to the right, so they're no longer stacking up. So I hope everyone can still hear me okay. You're all gone very quiet out there. You either, one of two things has happened. One, you found something more interesting on the TV, how dare you, or you've dozed off. Or you're just enjoying what I'm doing, I don't know. So this is kind of, don't be afraid to change your paintings, okay? I've a feeling that, like me, most people are afraid to just change their picture because you slave so hard to get this far. You're almost, okay, well, that's the best it's going to be and I'm going to stick with this, even though you suspect it might be wrong, or it may not give you what you're looking for, and you prefer, possibly, you might prefer, you don't have to, but you might prefer your waves to look like that, okay? So let's carry on with our not quite painting and see what I can make of this, because I have a feeling things are going to get a lot worse before they get better. We've saddled ourselves with these waves that are all kind of stacked up in a bad shape down here, but we still want to give the impression that this wave has got some patterns on it, it's got some sort of shapes to it, even though it's too pale. And for this I've got myself a little detail brush. It's not a Bob Ross brush, this is just kind of what was laying around. And I'm going to pick up a little bit of my titanium white paint here, and I'm going to commit an absolute mortal sin. I'm going to be bringing some little bits of wave foam down from my wave, and I'm going to hope this is going to make a big improvement to my painting, but we'll see. And again, I stress this is not based upon anybody's painting. If you're out there going, oh my god, he's been looking at my work, I have no idea about anybody else's paintings other than my own disasters, and I'm painting a replica of my own poor paintings. So, and this is something I see on my paintings when I look at my photographs. I see waves that look like that, and you can kind of guess the problem I've created for myself is that there's no hook in this. There's no kind of gap between the waves. In other words, one wave looks like it's standing on top of the next wave. My perspective has gone completely AWOL here. The waves actually look like they're all standing up, and they're kind of standing on the one in front of it, and they're all the same size. So you see my perspective line has gone completely AWOL on this one. The gappings are all wrong, and these lines are way too straight, and they come down. The other problem I have with this wave is that there's no shadow line in it. It was always too pale, so the tops of my waves and the middles of my waves and the base of my waves, they all look very bland. So not quite. Let's have a look at right, just right. Okay. So on this one, when I was just throwing my wave on there, you saw me just paint it like I didn't care, because you thought I didn't care. But what I was doing is I was painting shadows. A shadow of a wave, then a highlight, then a shadow, and then a highlight. Because you've got to remember that the shape of a wave, if I draw you the shape of a wave cut on edge, it's like a thorn, like this kind of shape it is. It's kind of like that. That is a wave cut through on edge. If the sun's coming this way, that's going to cast a shadow in front of it, and then as the light goes over the wave and hits the water here, it's going to be in highlights. So you're going to have a wave with a shadow and a highlight. So does that make sense? I hope that kind of makes sense there a little bit. So this colour here is the shadow of the wave. This is the area where the light goes over the top and lights up the water. So you want light and dark, and look at the sizes. These are really crunched up, and it grew and it grew and it grew. Okay, so that wave looks like it's got more of a chance. I said I was only going to be on here an hour, and I've already blabbed for 50 minutes. But it's good stuff, I hope. So unlike this side where they're all stacked up, these waves, you want to make sure you have a nice tight little turn. Okay, you want to kind of think about how the wave kind of builds and kind of makes a nice little shape in here. A little bit more. So these waves are going to make these nice little curves. And don't kill that dark. In here you can have it a little lighter. Not too light, because you don't want to kill the shadow there for this piece of foam. Okay, so there's another little hint for you. You're putting on the little tops of these little waves here. Don't kill all of the shadow behind you. You want to put in some little bits of foam and stuff on here. Gives it a little something. I normally do this with a fan brush. I'm just going to do it with this brush because it's what's in my hand. Pop in a little bit of foam. And again, think about those little angles. But this is the floor of this wave is about here, just where the shadow runs out. So this can't come down any lower than that. That's the bottom line, because then it's in that little flat piece of calm water between those waves. So when you're painting these waves, remember you're trying to paint high spots and low spots. You can't break through them. You can't cross one into the other. I'm just twiddling on here a little bit of colour. So they're kind of very, very gentle. Nice little curves. Maybe there's a little bit brighter there. Just give your hand a little wiggle. You decide. I'm just going to let you paint this on here real quick. Okay, so that's a real quick little wave. So the one on the right, it's quite good, and the one on the left, not quite. So let's see if we can make anything of this. Let's see what's going to happen in here when I start putting the eye of my wave on. So I'm going to just grab up a little filbert brush here, and I'm going to get a little bit of cadmium yellow. Okay, and maybe I'm going to go a little bit too bright with this, folks. Just a little hair too bright with it. And I'm going to try and make the eye of my wave work. Even though my wave is too far to the right and the levels are kind of wrong, let's try and make something happen with it. So we put this on, and we hope when we get kind of this big line thing happening here. It's just where I put on just too much paint, and in the hope of fixing it, I think I'll just sit and stir it for a while like a cup of coffee. And that's kind of like the problem. Oh, there are lots of comments on here. Hi Pam, hi there Christopher. You know what happened there. I am a ninny. I am sorry folks. I hadn't scrolled down on the comments bar, all I could see was the first two people on there. Hi, Christopher. Oh, Christopher, that isn't how they all turn out, but maybe we've all made these mistakes. So this is kind of like, as I say, this is my kind of wished I hadn't bothered. And the problem is that in the hope that this is somehow going to improve itself, we somehow forget that we should just stop stirring. It doesn't matter how many applications of colour and how long you stir this, it's not going to improve, folks. It just is not. So let's have a look and see. Let me put a little bit of highlight into the eye of this wave. And first things first, and this is a good little tip for you, you got to get some of the paint out of the eye. Now, what Bob used to do when the cameras weren't always on him, he'd take his finger and he'd just wipe, literally he would wipe the eye of his wave and he would just knock out some colour. You can take a little piece of paper towel and take out a little piece of colour. And I hope you can see that. I've taken it out just at the top and I left a little shadow line in here, folks. That shadow line is what's going to make your painting sing or not. So I just knocked out a little bit of colour. I've got this grubby old brush to use. That's okay. So I've got a little bit of cadmium yellow and I'm going to mix it with some white. And the colour I'm going to make myself is kind of like a primrose yellow colour. Now then. So it's not strong. And let's see how this one goes. And again, I'm going to say, stay away from the very crest of my wave. Is that yellow enough? That doesn't look like yellow on my screen here, so I'm going to just up the value a little bit here. That's yellow enough for me. So I'm going to leave my mascara line, my little shadow line at the top, and I'm going to smoosh this in at the top of my wave. And I am not going to muck about with it, because when you do, you're in trouble. I'm going to use my fingers and I'm going to just blend this wave down. Bob would pick up a 1-inch brush and blend it with that, which is perfectly good. If I had a big canvas to paint with, I would be doing exactly the same. I would use a brush, but on a little canvas, I don't have a lot of room here, so my fingers are going to work for me. And what I want is the crest of my wave to be the brightest, the most transparent. And I clean my fingers off. And for the colours to blend, I don't want to see where they go to, they just want to kind of blend. So let's do a little comparison. So that side there, I didn't use any titanium white. I went straight in with raw cad yellow. Cadmium yellow is a transparent yellow colour. It does not have enough oomph to blend without a little bit of titanium white, and it won't make the transparency you want. It just makes the key lime yellow. Whereas this one here, I put cad yellow with a little bit of titanium white, and you see what it gave me, a lovely kind of milky brightness that's lacking in this one. So there you go, just right, not quite. Okay, let's put on some foam. Let's get these waves kind of completed a little bit now. Okay, so I'm going to go back in with my cadmium yellow? No, titanium white and my old fan brush. Because I think this next kind of thing that happens is something I used to do an awful lot, and it's the kind of the pulling the wave over. Get back on that one again. Let's say for a start, I've crept it too far to the centre. This should really have been back over here, but I'm going to come in down here and I'm going to press the brush into the canvas like my life depends on it, folks. And I'm going to do that and that and that. So I literally garming the paint on. I'm doing my best to push my brush almost through my painting in the hope that by using more muscles I can overpower my picture. Yeah. And The problem here is I have no shadow. My yellow and my white are going to end up blending into each other. My wave curl is kind of going back on itself, and I might put foam across the top that ends up looking like that. And again, this is something I used to do in the hope that my painting would look better if I did this to it, and then stabbed a load of paint on top and hoped that would fix it. It never did. So let's have a look at the better version of this painting. Same brush, same paint, nothing different. And I'm going to load my brush to a chiseled edge, just like I did on the other one. The difference is with this painting, this side of the painting, I'm thinking about my water, the wave, it arrives with some speed. This side, it looked like it got to the beach and then dropped dead. It went. This one arrives with a little bit of speed to it. So I'm going to have my wave coming along, and it's arriving with a bit of pace. I'm going to press a little bit, and then I'm going to drop. And I want to keep all that lovely shadow in there. Reload my brush, and I'm going to travel along right beside that other one, and as Bob will do the noise, that shape there, it just tells you it's going at speed, doesn't it? So you want to start, overlap a little bit, use a little pressure, and then let gravity grab hold of that brush and just give it a little flick. And all these little marks under here, absolutely priceless. You can't have bright things all the way. I want my first two brush strokes to be my zingers and everything else to be a little bit under. And there's a reason for that, because I'm going to put some foam in here, and if I've got thick white paint, my foam won't show. As for the left-hand side of my wave, real nice and quick. Here I just daubed it. On the left-hand one I just dabbed it on here. On this one here I'm going to use my brush and I'm going to do some little flicks with it. And it doesn't have to form a straight line, folks. Don't get caught out with that one. Just because you made a shape doesn't mean you've got to stick to it. Okay. Give yourself some kind of interesting shapes in here. Now I have to mention this is going to be this little thing I'm doing, this little ditty for you. I'm going to save this. I'm going to edit it out a little bit, and I'm going to add it to YouTube. So if you missed this, don't think, oh, you know, it was. I could have had a good laugh at this guy's expense. You can still have a good laugh at my expense. You can go and see me on YouTube. Now here I saved my little shadow so that my wave foam has something to stand out against. See that little shadow in there? That helps this pop. A little bit of, quick bit of blending. Don't kill the top edge, folks. In here you can go a little crazy with it. Here you can put in some more splash and some more crash. You can have some more fun with that one. But can you see that little shadow line I left in there? That shadow line separates the eye of the wave from the foam. Okay. I think we're almost out of time. I'm going to do a couple of quick little moves on this, and then I'm going to sign off for the evening. So our problem here is that the wave appears to be starting here but finishes here. So we end up putting our water on the beach with a palette knife, and it goes on a bit straight, and then we try and make our wave fit onto the beach there. And I'm really hamming this up now, folks. I know I'm making a real pickle of this. And we end up looking like something like this, with a wave that doesn't quite fit, with lines that don't quite fit. They're all a bit parallel. And it doesn't kind of work as a wave anymore. In fact, it's turned into something which I shouldn't really show you on screen. Whereas that one looks like it's got a chance. Scroll down a bit. So here you see there's a lovely steep line there, and it's curling because this wave is building, it's growing inside. This one is a little less steep, a little flatter and a little flatter, until eventually these waves ending up at the floor of the wave, and the angles are important here. I'm going to just put on a little bit of paint here just so you get a sense of those angles. Curl that one up in the inside there. And they cannot come from any further down on the beach. They could come from inside the wave a little bit, but they are climbing up into the centre of the wave like a surfer. But they can't come any lower than that, folks. It's physically impossible as this wave comes up the beach. Remember, this is casting a shadow here, so you don't want to get this too bright. You can get bright down in here, and then I'm going to throw on a little bit of surf on the beach here. And again, unlike that side, which is a little bit kind of static and flat, here I'm going to work down a little bit, and I'm going to come down at a nice angle. So you can go from high to low. You can't start low though and go high. Nothing happens. You have to start high and come down into the low. So it kind of only works in one direction. It's a pain when it does, but that's kind of how it is. And I'm just going to grab some of this, and I'm going to just pull this back. It's the remnants of the old waves as they kind of flood up the beach. And these angles again are kind of an important thing. You don't want to overdo it. I could do a little bit more colour in here. Let's kind of pull a little bit more. Starts a little shadow in there. Again, don't be afraid to go back and make changes. If it looks like it's kind of not right, then don't be afraid to make a little change. You're not going to hurt anything by going back and having a little play. Whereas if you leave it, you're always going to look at it and wonder, ah, I should have fixed it. I think I've bored you guys to death enough. Hi Sam. I hope I've given you kind of just a few little pointers and tips on painting seascapes. Remember that one is the, whoopsie, not quite. And that one, well, just right. With a little more work, I could definitely get that one into something better. Instantly, folks, when you start working on the beach, remember that is a lot further away than this, so you can't go from here up to there. You can only go there in flat strokes, so keep that one in mind. Again, it's another one of those perspective things you've got to be a little careful on, that we get ourselves in a pickle when we do these things and we forget where we're going to. So this piece of wave here is actually joined on all the way over in here somewhere in flat lines. Okay, well, I bent you here for 6 minutes longer than my allotted time. I dare say they probably give me the sack. I'm just going to turn around, you can see my ugly mush for the last couple of minutes. Kind of all still there. Right, okay, so Seascapes. Okay, I'm a bit crooked. Seascapes. Not quite, just right. Have fun with your paintings. Don't be afraid to go in and fix things. Don't be afraid to rub stuff out. It is only a piece of paper, folks. Don't get bent out of shape about it. Stay safe. I'll see you in a couple of weeks' time. Tell me what it is you want me to do. If you think I'm having problems with this, anything you like, just throw some ideas at me. If it grabs my attention, I think, well, that needs a bit of a looking at, then I'll do something for you. But in the meantime, I'm just going to say, stay safe, look after yourself, get your masks on, okay? And if you're due for it, get your shoulder ready for the old jab. But anyway, thank you very much for being with us tonight. I hope that was useful for you. God bless. Mwah.